kind of response video to Matt, but might be pointless, but I'm going to do it anyway because yeah, there might be some value in it. There is some philosophy here to discuss. But kind of like how the modern mystic has sort of had his fill of me, I'm sort of had it with Matt. And it's more of a disappointment than anything else. I mean, the guy's got such potential, a good brain, and he's just allowed the books to own him. I mean, he's now just a little Borg of the book. The ideas are just so fucktarded, and he's not even trying to reason through them. He just throws them into the ether, and it's just too sloppy, too reckless. I mean, his last video, okay, he's lamenting creativity, and he's, well, not lamenting, but he's glorifying it essentially. But he's connecting creativity to free will and the idea that determinism, if determinism is true, then none of these words mean anything, and that life doesn't mean anything, and all this crap. And the word creativity, I mean, that one's so easily analyzed. Okay, I mean, we know there's no spontaneous creativity. Physicists come up with brilliant theories on how the universe work. You have to have the skills. We can see the cause and effect in the creative process. It's no magic there. Anybody who does any creating knows there's no magic there, that there is a process of reasoning that goes through thinking, contemplating. They must be inspired, and they must be inspired by a coalescing of thoughts and ideas, and they must be exposed to those. You have to feed creativity. And it's just so stupid to think of it any other way. I mean, like I said, it's just so obvious. You don't have some caveman, write the blueprints for a jetliner. All right, I mean, he has to have the constituent parts to be creative. He has to know the dynamics to be creative. The art form, or the texture, or he has to have some understanding of it, and it's just stupid to see it in any other way. It's obviously cause and effect. We are programmed machines, but it doesn't matter. There is no free will. Yes, we are determined, and it has absolutely no meaning. I mean, in terms of destroying anything about our meaning as consciousnesses, because we have no capacity to be in any way distracted by that fact, because our lives are kinetic. We are existing in them, and we cannot see the programming. All right, and as long as the programming isn't obvious to us, it's not going to encumber us with some kind of sense of futility. All right, we'll always be free of that sense, because we won't know what we're going to say. I didn't know exactly what words are going to pop out of my mouth, but they were certainly programmed. All right, they were certainly a product of cause and effect. I had to first learn the English language, and I had to use it over and over again in different ways, and that's how the personality of my rhetoric is created. It is not spontaneous. I don't automatically and spontaneously speak like Nick and use the word bollocks or something. I don't spontaneous phantasmagorical. All right, none of that shit happens. I am me, okay, and me isn't a thing. It's a structure. All right, and every thought and idea has to go through that intellectual structure. And so it's just bullshit. We are not, the fact that we aren't spontaneously evolving and right before our eyes are changing, are morphing into other personalities or other people, is clear evidence of the fact that there is determinism involved here, Matt. It is not a spontaneous process. And yes, these words don't mean anything. It's true. The word creative is a simplification. It's a complexification of something we just can't fully comprehend. It's like we have limited eyesight. We can't see beyond the horizon. Well, we can't see certain things. It doesn't mean the horizon, what's beyond the horizon, doesn't exist. It just means that we can't necessarily absorb it as a whole. But the fact that there is these processes, and so yes, words like spontaneous really, by their explicit definition, it's bullshit. Okay, it's a word used out of ignorance, And so we use the word creativity to describe what happens when a brain takes 70 elements or 90 elements or maybe even 50,000 elements of their personality and their experience and what's happened to them in their life, and it mixes those together and comes up with a new color or a new event or a new thing, a redesigning of what exists, either of parallel value or greater value, or something that meets a redesign that is has value to us, and we call that creativity. But we know what it's made out of. Like I said, it is cause and effect, and it's obviously cause and effect because it's a progressive skill that's usually 99.99% of the time involved. And the aberrations to that are only aberrations because of our inability to perceive exactly what took place, exactly how the shortcut took place. I mean, how somebody without the skills was able to create something parallel to somebody being skilled. But in most cases, somebody who's never been taught how to make a horseshoe isn't going to be able to make a goddamn horseshoe. So anyway, this really isn't something that needs to be said. I mean, it seems some of this is just so obvious. There's just no evidence of an undetermined universe. There's no evidence of God's existence anywhere in any legitimate archive of knowledge. It does not exist. And you keep trying to bend, everything into trying to make some kind of crack in that door. Why? Because you think life doesn't mean anything unless there's some kind of God behind it, some sort of spontaneity behind it. And it's just unnecessary. It's stupid. It doesn't have anything to do with how we live. I mean, you've even made in the past an argument, I've got a little bit of time, so I'll go into that argument, that there'd be no point in punishing people if they don't have free will. We don't punish people, okay? We create deterrence against crime, and the only way you can do that is to create some kind of bad that's going to happen to somebody if they do a bad thing. So the idea isn't to just torture some kind of person out of, to somehow undo what they did, which you can't do. The whole idea is to deter some brain from committing the crime or doing it again. And certainly deterrence, it has validity in a brain that doesn't have free will. A brain without free will can be deterred because the fact of deterrence, the fact that he will be punished, becomes a fact that goes into his programmed machine, and it says, okay, I won't commit the crime because there's a deterrence against the crime. But obviously the person who's being punished, it doesn't do much fucking good because he did what he did because of his bad programming. But that's the only way we can create deterrence, is you have to create some kind of threat, okay, that the programmed, the deterministic mind can understand. You have to create some real motivator, okay? And you can motivate deterministic things. You can put walls and barriers in front of them and make them do what you want them to do by doing that. So whatever. I mean, it's an inane conversation to have. And it's just whatever. I mean, you can do your whitehead stuff and you're this guy and that guy, all this fucking these books of bullshit, but that's all you've become. You've just become a drone of the books of bullshit.